For those of you who are watching, you will probably see reactions on my face to what I just heard.
You can take the psilocybin, but if you don't do the integration and get educated,
You feel like, at least I did, like every single part of my skin was about to come off.
a lot of people have a problem. They have a hard time really believing what you're saying or having empathy towards what you're saying because they can't feel and touch it.
I want us to understand more clearly exactly what happened.
You feel like you're on fire and you're explaining this to the doctors or your loved ones and stuff. And it's just like, I know they believe you, but they can't see it.
What exactly you went through during those journeys, but particularly that second one, the heroic dose.
The most beautiful feeling anybody could ever imagine.
How did it feel to smile again? Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Webdelics podcast, where we're on a journey to find out the truth about psychedelics and plant medicine, to get rid of the myths and to change the narrative. I'm your host, Scott Mason, and with us today is a very special guest, Kevin Colley. Kevin, I'll just get started by saying the truth. Your journey has been extraordinary, and we're about to get into that. But before we start, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who are you, Kevin Colley?
Well, I am an ex-NHL hockey player that suffered a career-ending neck injury. It broke my neck, and then got into coach and pro. We're going to dive into this a lot. I had some very ups and downs since my injury the last 18 years, and found some psilocybin, and it just really opened my eyes. And from where I was to where I am now is just the transformation has been, and this is doctor's words, not mine, is the transformation is like nothing they've seen before. So it's truly remarkable. It's a great start for me getting on the right path to be the best version of myself possible. So that's kind of me in a nutshell right there.
What a beautiful way to summarize who you are to those who don't know you yet. And I can say, having had some time with you in our pre-show interview, this is going to be an episode where we get to know someone who is well worth getting to know. You touched on the focus of today's episode, which is psilocybin and traumatic brain injury. I'll start by saying the idea of a traumatic brain injury is one of the scariest things that I can contemplate. And I know that I'm not alone here. When people think about professional athletes, NHL, NBA, NFL, or other players, they tend to think about the excitement, they think about the money, they think about the adulation of the fans. They don't think about what can happen. Talk to us about your own journey in the NHL and how that led you to where you're at today.
Sorry, I just got a little teary-eyed there. That just flooded with talking about the TBI. It just come flooding back. So
I'm here for you.
yeah,
brother.
it started in a game against Washington, 2006, in the NHL. I went to go hit a player from Washington, and it was a freak accident. He kind of just lunged out of the way, and his stick just perfectly tripped up my legs at full speed, and I supermaned it into the boards head first, and then that was it. I laid on the ice for 10, 15 minutes in around there. I skated off the ice, no stretcher. I had help from Eric Goddard and Brad Lukowicz, who are big guys that could help me off the ice. And then I didn't have any real support. I had to walk around the basement of the Nassau Coliseum and get an X-ray with zero assistance. And at this whole time, while I'm laying on the ice and getting off the ice and on my way to the X-ray room, it just felt like I was on fire from my earlobes down. people explain how does it feel when you break your neck, and then that's just the feeling that I was numb, and it just felt like I was on fire. So I walk around the basement of the Nassau Coliseum. I get the picture of my neck. I walk all the way down to the opposite side where the training room is. Again, like zero assistance, no help at all. Once I get in the training room, that's when all the doctors and training medical staff come in and they start cutting off all my equipment and strap my head down. And I'm like, I mean, I knew something was seriously wrong, but I didn't know it was going to be that extreme because of the lack of attention I was getting to get off the ice, walk all the way around the basement of the building to get an x-ray by myself and to get back. So I was like, all right, well, maybe this is just a little stinger and I'm going to be okay. Well, they cut off all my gear, strapped me down right in the ambulance, and I just flown my dad in that day. It's his first game at Nassau Coliseum to watch me play in the NHL. So it was I was pretty amped up to have a really good
Yeah.
game. And the next thing I know, we're at the hospital getting out of the MRI machine, and there was no time wasted. They put the bar on my forehead and the back of my neck, and they started drilling in my halo. And I mean, I called my dad in and just was in shock. I'm like, what is happening? What's going on? And so emotional and crying of like, my dream has just ended. And now I'm in a halo and they're telling me I'm stabilized, but there's still an outside chance that I could be paralyzed. And it's just like, it was such a life-changing moment that, I had no time to prepare for. And that's the part of my life with my accidents and my career-ending injury.
So, for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, and it may be worth, once you're finished listening to the episode, going to YouTube to watch, you will probably see reactions on my face to what I just heard. And my reactions are probably very similar to the reactions that other people who are listening to or watching this may have. This is actually shocking. I, I can't even imagine. I'm beside myself of even hearing that a professional athlete in the middle of a game has this sort of injury, is laying on the ice for 10 or 15 minutes, and people are just sitting there like nothing's going on until finally, alone. I mean, yes, you have some people help you get off, but alone, you sort of are staggering through a coliseum attempting to find, like, oh, what if you had fallen in a hallway and just, you know, cracked your head on the floor right then and there? What? I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. This is, um, uh, it's hard to take in. Am I missing something here?
No, so that's exactly it, and that's the truth. I mean, I haven't shared that kind of truth of what happened when I broke my neck. I just didn't want to really share it. But what happened is, because I had no stretcher off the ice, that I was under my own care walking around a couple laps of the basement of the Coliseum. Like, the doctors really don't know if I did more damage while I was doing all that on my own with a broken neck.
Of course.
So the next part of that is, the Islanders flew me back after I was out of my two major surgeries and my halo finally come off. They flew me back to receive an award. So while I was there, the general manager, Mike Milber at the time, sat me down and asked if I had lawyered up. And yes, obviously, from the lack of care that I got, I did lawyer up. And it was my first year
Mhm.
making the NHL, and I've said it this before, is I would have played in the NHL for free. I would have lived off the per diem and been the happiest player in the league. That's just how important the NHL was to me. I wanted to be in the NHL since I was two. So anyways, Mike and I are sitting down. He asked if I lowered up. I said yes. And he just said, listen, we know that trainers, they messed up. We want to offer you a lifetime job with us. This keeps you in the NHL for the rest of your life, and you don't sue us, and you can get what you want, and we're going to help you out along the way as well. And I'm like, Absolutely. If you're going to say I'm going to be at the NHL level for the rest of my
Mm-hmm.
life, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
I was 27. I don't want to say I was young.
Mm-hmm.
I should have known better to get something on paper versus a gentleman's handshake agreement. And then things happen when you don't do that. Mike ended up, I don't know if he left on his own, he got fired. Anyways, he got removed from the organization and went on a different path. And then I just got forgotten about. And then I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. And then I got into coaching, and then got hooked on pain pills and tried every antidepressants. And then it just was, the rabbit hole was deep. And I couldn't get out of the rabbit hole. I could peek up once in a while, but I still was just in a fog from all the pharmaceutical drugs I was on. I didn't know who I was, where I was going. I didn't know. I was just very confused and lost with all the concussions and TBIs and all the medicine I was on. I was spiraling out of control. It's just a constant daily fight with myself every day.
So again, you're saying a lot, and it's very difficult not to just get overwhelmed by just empathy for what you went through. I want us to understand more clearly exactly what happened. So you had a TBI, and then you were made a promise about your financial future that did not happen. And you said, I was forgotten. And then you had to go into a different path. But while you were on that path, you had these issues with a lot of the drugs that you were on, as well as your emotional state. Let's break this all down for a few seconds. The traumatic brain injury, the TBI, what exactly was it, for us to really understand? Can you explain what type of injury it was, what it meant for you in terms of how your life would be going forward living with such an injury?
Well, it's having a brain injury is really hard to explain where people can understand. It's because like you can't touch it and feel
Mm-hmm.
it. So a lot of people have a problem. Again, this is just my point of view opinion. They have a hard time really believing what you're saying
Mm-hmm.
or having empathy towards what you're saying because they can't feel and touch it.
Yeah.
You've got a broken arm and you're in a cast. Somebody is like, "Oh, you okay?" Like I can tell you're in pain. Like they can see it, they can touch it. With a brain injury, is totally different. I had many concussions and then breaking my neck with the TBI. It is like just constant headaches, light bothers you. But what really is the toughest was for me is like how like just I say short fuse, but like no fuse, like just
Mm-hmm.
any little thing triggered you, and then it's just like minor blow up after minor blow up, and then when that happens for me, it was I just kept on. Now I'm being really hard on myself because I don't like how I responded to that
Mm-hmm.
certain situation and
Mm-hmm.
reacted, and then so it just builds up, and you just for me, I lost hope.
You also had, as you mentioned a few times, a broken neck. You even mentioned that for a period after the accident, you felt like your whole body was on fire. I will say this. So, those of you who follow this show probably know that as of the date of this recording, which is in late October of 2023, in the summer, starting in June and going into July and August of this year, I myself had a bizarre illness. I caught an unknown pathogen. And one of
Oh
the
well.
things that happened during that was that the it originated in my neck and it went down through the rest of my body. And I went through a period where every single nerve in my body below my neck felt like it was on fire. It was, and if I
Wow.
turned my head, if I sat perfectly still, I was okay. But if I turned my head, even in the slightest, whether in my sleep or awake, I, it was so bad I could not help but scream at the mere feeling of it. And I have to say, for anyone who has experienced that sort of thing or who has not experienced, if you have experienced it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't experienced it, literally feeling like your body is on fire, that's exactly what it's like. And it's hard to understate exactly how awful that is. I mean, it's not just like you're cozy by a fireplace. You feel like, at least I did, like every single part of my skin was about to come off.
Yeah, it's a feeling that again, like you're in so much pain, and it's again, you feel like you're on fire, and you're explaining this to the doctors or your loved ones and stuff, and it's just like I know they believe you, but they can't see it, so they don't know exactly. Is he being dramatic?
Yeah.
Well, I'm talking about myself. Was Kevin being dramatic and just wanting the sympathy and having a pity party? But no, none of that was happening. It was that's I felt like I was on fire, and for you to have those same symptoms, I empathize with you because that is not just the slightest little movement can trigger
Oh,
those fire
yes.
sensations, and it sucks. It's painful, and man, I hope you're doing a lot better. You look like you've come out of it okay right now. So I
Thank you. And
wish you the best.
thank you. And I just say this really not to turn the focus to me, but to say, yeah, I'm getting even a little emotional remembering this because it was so bad. And for you to have come through all of this and what you went through, I want to make clear is worse because you actually had a broken neck and you had a whole host of other. My employment wasn't at risk. Your entire future was gone. So I have to express that empathy because let me tell you, this is a lot to bear. If I can barely hold back tears myself thinking about how painful it was just with that one symptom, I can't even begin to fathom what you were going through emotionally, having this whole cluster of things going on. So when you're talking about how you were feeling, in addition to the brain injury itself, to what extent was this whole set of shocks that had happened to your life contributing to this feeling of depression or being in a hole? Was it like 2 + 2 = 10? Were you still in physical pain? Talk to us a little bit more about this.
Well, I'll just dive in, just go back a little bit while I was still in the halo, and obviously on Oxycontin because of
Yeah.
that pain. The worst pain though was for me is they took a bone about 3 inches from the back of my hip, and they fused it to my broken neck, 4 vertebrae. So I'm fused 4 vertebrae with a bone from my hip, 8 screws, 2 plates, 2 pins. So I'm in a halo and obviously going through my broken neck. But what hurt the most was because I was so immobile. I was laying on that missing bone from my hip. That hurt a lot more. And it's when you're in a halo, you have one position. That's in a lazy boy, sit and lean
Oh,
back a little bit, but you can't turn on your side or anything. So it's just that pressure of like taking that bone from my hip was uh, very, very painful. Um, but yeah, just with the TBI, that that's again, it's it's hard to explain properly of where hopefully the listeners can understand. It, it's very you're in a constant fight for me, anyways, with yourself all day long. So I've got three boys, I've got a wife, I've got friends, a family, and I was never present since I was hurt in a conversation. And I was masked from a lot of pharmaceutical drugs, pain pills. I was, I was an alcoholic. I'm about to go on 5 years. I'm not touching alcohol, so I'm very proud of that. But it is it is a war within yourself when you experience TBIs and PTSD, and then you've got all this other drugs, pharmaceutical drugs that you're on to kind of help with those symptoms. But all it does is like it's a temporary band-aid. But for me personally, I wouldn't be sitting here if I was still on pharmaceutical drugs, because that was for me, that was killing me. That was I wouldn't have been able to get to the spot I'm in now if I was still on pharmaceutical drugs with all the antidepressants and the anxiety, and all these other boosters that they had me on. I was just a walking zombie going through the motions, and I didn't want my kids to see somebody that, their dad that they look up to, that could be triggered and short fused and not present and hiding in the bedroom. And so I just wanted to disappear off in the sunset and just wash my hands with the journey of, it was a good run, and that's kind of where my head was at. And it's when you get into that state of mind with all the brain injuries and being masked by the bad pharmaceutical drugs that I was on that didn't work for me personally, um, you lose hope. And when you lose hope, you again, it's not selfish, but you don't feel like you have worth to yourself or to others, so why continue? And when you have kids, that's the thing that bothers, I guess, that bother me. I guess it'd be a pet peeve, is people say that suicide is selfish, and I can agree with that to maybe some point. But I think if you're ever maybe in that position, you would rethink that those comments, because you're so out of tune and uncontrol of your brain at this time, and all you want is inner peace, and you've been searching and scratching and clawing for years and trying every different drug out there and seeing different doctors and going to head doctors and sitting in the concussion chairs and trying everything. You just get to a point where nothing's worked. You've lost all hope, and all you want to do is not be in pain and suffering, battling with yourself every day, when you have loved ones that are trying to have conversations with you, and you're not present. And then that just builds up a lot of shame inside, and then you just become more hard on yourself, and it's just like a vicious kind of cycle of chasing your tail, which you feel like there's no way out. And uh, I'm blessed that when I was waving the white towel pre-Jamaica, that my brother picked up the phone and gave me some hope on what worked for him, and then I started to dive in onto the psilocybin, and with all the Navy SEAL 6 guys like Jeff Gum, and I watched a lot of the Sean Ryan podcast. He does a lot of the psilocybin episodes too, where people that are like these Navy SEAL 6 guys and the people that represent the United States military and Army, Navy, these guys are badasses. These guys get blown up. These guys deal with serious head trauma, and me watching these guys share their story and have the exact same symptoms that I was having. It was this is the biggest moment of my life. This is what I have to do, because it's working for these badass people that have been blowing up and suffered probably more than I have. And it changed everything for them. I knew right then that, all right, this is what I need to go try. It's my last hope, but I had hope, because if my buddy didn't pick up the phone, I don't know if we're having this conversation. So I'm blessed that everything just worked out, lined up, and by the grace of God, I'm sitting here today having the opportunity to be the best version of Kevin Colley I can be, and that's all I want.
There is another guest whose episode we recently recorded by the name of Sarah Roccasano. Her episode is really unusual, and I recommend that anyone who's listening to this episode perhaps take a listen to or watch her episode almost as a counterpoint. The focus on her episode was the call. She claims that plant medicines call you, and if you are feeling the need to explore them, then that is a call worth following. That if you're curious, then it is perhaps the medicines reaching out to you. I am hearing in your darkest pit that call. But you said that the call in this case came to you through a phone call from a buddy. Talk to us a little bit about what happened there.
So leading up to that phone call, I mean, I'd marked my spot. I knew what I was doing or about to do. I went on many drives to pick out a spot of me going to be with my dad in heaven.
Yes.
It was going to be a single car accident, no seatbelt. That was my way of getting out
Yeah.
and getting away from the pain. So at that time, that's kind of when I first got introduced to the ESPN documentary Peace of Mind with Riley Cote, who you know we weren't close when we played against each other. We fought a couple of times, but I'd known and followed his path on everything from the rest of his hockey career to post hockey, and how he was struggling with addictions and a lot of self-medicating, and he had a lot of fights and head trauma, PTSD, and concussions. And again, he was one of the ones that I admired, because he come out on the other side, and that's what I was searching for so
Yeah.
long. So I had my white towel and I was waving it. I didn't throw it in the ring, but I was sure waving
Yeah.
it. And I'm blessed and fortunate that he was in a position to pick up the phone when I needed him at that
Mm.
moment. And what he did is he told me just his story and what worked for him. And what that instantly did was, it gives me chills even thinking about it. It's that special to me, for him being there when I needed him, is to walk me through what worked for him. It gave me hope, where that's all I was looking. Just give me some kind of little sliver of hope that I can have something to hang on to get to a retreat or do something. And so that Riley was right then. He's like, I'm gonna do whatever I can. I'm gonna make sure if these things are sold out, I'm gonna get you in there. Don't worry, brother. We're gonna get you some help, and we're gonna come out of this. So it just instantly, I had somebody in my corner.
Yeah.
Like I've always had people in my corner, but he was basically taking me by the hand and saying, I got you. This is what has been working. This kind of, it's not new medicine, but it's now starting to, with all the research and data, is starting to really do amazing things with head injuries and a lot of other illnesses. So he got me lined up with Wake Wellness that do retreats in Jamaica. And that's when, for me, everything changed. I got off all of my pharmaceutical drugs. I was on 8 different pharmaceutical drugs. I got off 3 of them pre-Jamaica because it was mandatory. I couldn't have been on those drugs because they were so lethal. One was lithium.
Mm.
I had to get off 3 of those just to make sure that my journey was going to take full effect. And then I come out and I'm no antidepressants, no anxiety medication. And it's just now, with my journey, it's unlocked me and I can see again. It's just
I
amazing.
want to make sure I understand this correctly. Are you saying after one journey this happened?
I had 2 journeys. So one trip to Jamaica, but 2 different journeys.
Gotcha.
Yes. So after that, I kicked all my antidepressants and anxiety medication when I got back. And yeah, I had a little bit of brain fog for that first week, but my body was going through a lot. But I wouldn't have been able to kick all those pharmaceutical drugs if I didn't have the psilocybin medicine in me.
And for those who are in the audience who may not have ever done psilocybin or any other psychedelic for that matter, and who are listening or watching because they're curious and maybe even a little bit skeptical, each of these journeys was what, like 4 hours a piece, probably 3 hours or something like that?
Yeah, they're about 4 to 6 hours. The first one I did was probably about 4. It was a lighter one for me for the dose I got. Uh, the good journey that changed everything was a longer one. Obviously, I did hero dose,
Hmm.
went right down to my roots. That was another thing. I thought I had to leave Earth to get away to figure some things out. Well, that's totally opposite. I went down digging into my roots. That's where it took me, and everything was just matter of fact and truth down there, and a lot was revealed.
Explain to those who have not been on this sort of journey what that experience was like for you. Hey, I'm going to keep it real. Right now, this is something I'm exploring. So I'm as invested in this as anyone. Talk to us a little bit about what exactly you went through during those journeys, but particularly that second one, the heroic dose.
Yeah, so it just leading up to Jamaica once Riley got me set up, and I knew that I was going on this certain date. I had 6 weeks to cut medicine, and I started to really dive in and prepare with journaling. I started to do a lot of reading, and I had my intentions. So I wrote down what I wanted to get out of the journey. So I think I manifested a lot of it to reality, but this experience for somebody that has been struggling for so long, and it's just been a war between the years for 18 years every day, and having no enjoyment with life, it was the purest, most beautiful experience of my life. I've never cried joyful tears. I've never laughed. I'm more of a reserved kind of, and I'm more of a private guy, not so much anymore. But um, I laughed so hard, it come right from the spine. I never thought a laugh could feel so liberating and just so much energy, and the emotions were just so like hit me between the eyes of like, holy wow, I never thought I would ever smile again, let alone laugh out loud the way I did for so long. And then, I crying joyful tears. But so like going back to my intentions going in, I wanted to have, I believe in God. My wife's Christian, so we got some religion, and I believed in it, but I never really, I still had doubts.
Mm-hmm.
I had lots of doubts. And so in my intentions, I wanted to have a spiritual encounter with a higher power. And I tell you, this feeling that I got when I was touched by this spirit was the most beautiful, peaceful, purest feeling anybody could ever imagine. And what popped up next was this picture of the Stanley Cup. And obviously, a hockey player, that's what I
Mm-hmm.
always wanted to win growing up. Fortunately, I never got that. But instantly, what I just felt by being touched by the higher power, like when the Stanley Cup showed up, I was like, oh, what I just felt and experienced, you don't have to worry about winning that silver trophy anymore, because what I just experienced was a way better feeling than lifting that piece of hardware. And again, I have to show respect to the hockey players because they break bones, they
Mm-hmm.
stitches, they go through war to lift that Stanley Cup. And trust me, I'm still jealous that they get to do that. And it's such an amazing trophy to win. So I'm not downplaying the Stanley Cup. I'm just upplaying how amazing of a feeling it was when I got touched, that no any other situation that could arise could uh, top what I just felt from what I this spiritual encounter that I had. It was just so real. It was so beautiful. Yeah, it was amazing.
Did you know after these two journeys were over that your days of needing those drugs were over, that your days of despair had ended?
Right when I was done the journey, obviously I was ear to ear smiles. I was keeping my experiences kind of to myself because I was trying to digest everything. But the doctors on site at the resort, I mean, I was right communicating with them. Hey, I want to get off all of these right now. It was just felt like I was unlocked and able to now make that transition of getting off all the pharmaceutical drugs. So we got a game plan in place, and I get back and I got off them all, and it's just amazing. we went to the beach the day in, it was a Thursday in between the journeys, just on a relaxing. All as a tribe went down there and just kicked it for a few hours, did some swim in the ocean. And me coming back in, I got hit from behind from a wave, which I haven't been in the ocean a long time, so I wasn't even thinking about the waves. Anyways, the day of the big journey, I wake up and I can't even move my neck. I know, and I'm in a lot of pain. I'm stiff, but I know today's my big day for the big journey. So we get going after I have that spiritual encounter with, the spirit of the higher power. Then it was like I sat up and I felt this pressure on my chest to lay back down. And it was a higher power saying, now that I've touched you, I've felt you, I'm real, watch what I can do for you now. And it was like he took a big syringe, and put on the top of my neck. And he was sucking out all the pain that from that wave crashing in on me, that I was in so much pain that day. And I could feel the pain leave my body. Now, later that night, I was still sore, but the next day it was like I'd never hurt my neck. So
Wow.
the medicine and the brain are such powerful things. I couldn't believe it. Usually if I hurt my neck that bad, I would be laid up really sore for a couple weeks, but it was gone the next day. It was just truly remarkable. It's mind blowing. It's mind blowing. Like, people aren't going to believe it, but that's
Yeah,
the truth.
I am speechless and mind blowing. Right, there was this series of CDs when I was a little boy that was out called "Didn't It Blow Your Mind," and it was a collection of 60s and 70s sort of psychedelic rock style hits. And I've got to say, I never understood really what the title of that series meant until I began doing this podcast and then hearing things like this. Because I'll tell you this, my mind is genuinely blown hearing this. And it sounds like the little mind blowing that you've just given me is nothing compared to the mind blowing that you went through. With all of that in mind, Kevin Colley, I have to ask you, how did it feel to smile again?
It gives me chills thinking about it. I'm just stone faced walking zombie for 18 years. If I ever cracked a smile pre my journey, it was forced. Now it's like I smile because something's funny. It is. I didn't think I'd feel laughter and feel smiling and really being present in a conversation and have empathy. I didn't think I would ever get to where I am today, to just be normal and have these feelings, because it's been such a constant battle with myself for so long. And now it's got me in a position where I got to do my daily practice. I do exercise and work out and meditate and breathe, because there's a lot of damage done, self-inflicted, and some other things that happened to my brain that were out of my control. There's a lot of damage in there, so it's just a daily practice for me to every day just gets a little bit easier on check my thoughts, catch it, and then change it. So I'm able to, if I triggered, I catch it earlier, and then I change it, where before is like, if something triggered me, I lay in my bed for 3 days. So I just feel like I've got the tools now, and I'm practicing to be able to handle life like an adult, and like normal people do that never experience head trauma. And I'm blessed for that. And life still, trust me, life is life. It's not every day is an awesome day. I still have bad days. I have great days, and some not so bad days, but it's so much better, and I'm on the right path of, like, I'm getting more consistently good days, where before I never had a good day. So I got to stick to my practice on exercising. I'm mindful of what I put into my body. I mentioned earlier that I'm going on 5 years sobriety of drinking. That was a big thing for me. So I'm chasing to be the best version of myself I can be, and I've got a long ways to go, because I want again, I want to be the best version of me, and my vision of me is going to take a lot of work to get to where I want to
Right.
go, and I'll get there. But I'm blessed to be able to give this opportunity to try to recondition my brain and think positive and do what's right for me, and be mindful of what I put on my body. And I can see the shift from people around me of like, now they're starting to eat a little bit healthier. They're mindful of exercising, and it's just really cool to see. You don't have to preach these things all the time. It's just I'm just trying to lead by example, and I can see the shift in my kids and my wife and people I work with. So it's been truly awesome to see.
So, Kevin, just so the timeline is clear here, when exactly did you have these two journeys?
So I went to Jamaica with a company called Wake that does the ceremonies and journeys in July this past year, 2023.
So this is really a rapid turnaround for you. And the person that I'm seeing now and the person who I met during our pre-show interview is not someone mired in despair. Talk to us a little bit more about the role of integration and how you view the psilocybin as part of an ongoing process. Because unless I'm putting words in your mouth, I'm hearing you say that psilocybin may have been a trigger or a catalyst, but you're doing other things also to keep your mental state where it needs to be. But please, if I'm putting words in your mouth, correct me, because I don't want to do that.
No, that's it exactly. With the integration and the medicine, they go hand in hand. They're both as important as the next. The You can take the psilocybin, but if you don't do the integration and get educated and be mindful of how you need to stay on top of your A game by conditioning your brain by, if you can't do physical activity, but you can do breathing, you can do yoga, you can walk. So they go hand in hand. Like the psilocybin itself, it didn't come back on the plane with me, but all the integrations and the meetings that we had, the gatherings as a tribe, and the doctors that were there was just so first class. It was again just as important as the psilocybin, because like I didn't bring the psilocybin home with me, so I got to do my daily practice on. Again, I was in such a fog for 18 years. I stopped learning because I couldn't absorb any information. I didn't have the bandwidth to take it on because it was just a constant fight. But now with the tools that I've learned with the integration, the education, and the reading, it's opened me up and allowed me to grow and to make sure. Again, I got to be disciplined because the practice is very important to me. Uh, and for the psilocybin to do its thing, you can't just kick your feet up and
Right.
everything's great. I mean, you have to get where you want to go in life. There has to take work and practice, right? It's with anything, and the most important thing is my mental health. So I have to nourish it and take it serious. Where I'm doing my daily practice, and when I got back from Jamaica, I started walking an hour every morning and meditating and doing a swim, getting some playtime in before work. And then a few weeks ago, I was like, you know what? Screw it. I haven't ran since I broke my neck. I want to see how sore I'm going to be tomorrow. So I went for a jog, and next day I felt fine. My neck responded great. So now I'm running every morning with some breathing and meditating, and I'm really enjoying it because I know that's what I need. It sets myself up for a day where I'm going to be in a position to be the best version of me possible. If I just sleep in and don't get a lot of movement in my body, that's when I know myself. Even just in the past 18 years, I can let things slip. So I'm just being mindful, and now I'm back to being disciplined, which I haven't been in discipline since I probably was playing
Wow.
hockey. So now I get to see where my threshold is. I try to challenge myself by whether I'm getting an extra set in uh, of weights, or I'm running an extra 2 minutes that day, or anything. I try to push myself a little bit just to challenge myself, just to get a little bit of fire motivation going in my belly again, which has been good. That's a good challenge that I've really enjoyed, that I've gotten back to.
I'm inspired. You might get me back to running again. Now, there are a lot of takeaways that I might get from this episode as I ponder it, as I think about it, as I listen to it again and again. And running, if I actually do that, would be quite a dramatic takeaway to have. But really, when I think about the takeaways that speak to my heart, having heard all of the things that you shared today, what really stands out is that hope can be possible. And sometimes it might not be where we expect it. And sometimes people, even if you don't believe in yourself, may believe in you or care enough about you to bring that call to a different way of turning your life around into it. And then anything's possible. If there is any takeaway that you would like us to remember from this extraordinary interview, or anything that you didn't have a chance to say that you want to make sure gets out there, please speak and let us know.
Well, Scott, I just want to thank you for having me on, and this is why I'm on, is to share my story, and I wouldn't be here if the Riley Cotes, and I know Dan Carcillo shared his story, and Sean Ryan. I touched on those guys. If they didn't share their story and stand up and be vulnerable, like that would have never gave me hope, because I had nothing to go on. So like that's what I'm here, is to share my story. If it can help one person, whether it's today or in 2 years or in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be, that's why I just want to share my story, because I've been at the lowest of the low. A lot of people are at the lowest of the low, and I just want people to know, like, when there is no hope, call somebody, email me. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional physician by any means, but I can help guide you to what worked for me, and have serious conversations on how to help, and again, elaborate more on my story. If people want to reach out, they can email me at kcolley04@gmail.com. My sister's working on a website right now, but you can follow me on LinkedIn and Facebook. It's Kevin Colley. Shoot me a note if you're struggling. Again, I'm not a doctor. All I can do is really get into what worked for me, and obviously, if you're listening to this, you know it's worked. But please don't throw in that towel if you're waving it. Email, call somebody if just lean on somebody, because all you need is a little sliver of hope, and your whole life can change. Um, there are ways out of it. Please just keep going and keep fighting, and know that there's a lot of amazing people out there that want to see you better. And just hang on to that hope, and we'll do our best to get you there.
I'm so glad that the spirit that you were seeking found its way to you through that journey, and put you in a position where you could share that as well as everything else that you have today. For those of you who have followed this show from the beginning, or maybe just joined along the way, you know that, like so many of you in the audience, I'm not from the psychedelic or plant medicine world, and that the journey that I've been on as the host of this podcast has been eye-opening, deeply moving, profound, as I bet it has been for so many of you. In a series of upcoming episodes, I'm going to share with you exactly what that's meant for my own life, where my own journey may take me. And I'm going to talk with experts and people who are fellow journeyers on how that change and everything that I've heard and learned along the way will play out in the future, and what it may mean for me, and ultimately what it may mean for you. In the meantime, If you've enjoyed today's episode, and I have no doubt that you have, be sure to tell everyone that you know about the Webdelics podcast and the great work that we're doing here. Be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite audio platform, as well as on YouTube. And I'd love it if you left us a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify, as well as a comment or two on YouTube. Then, be sure to follow us on all of our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and go to our website at webdelics.com. That's WEBDELICS.com for credible, up-to-date, and accurate information about psychedelics and plant medicine. Subscribe to our blog, and then, above all else, come back next time for another episode of the Webdelics podcast.